TikTok will allow World Cup content to be streamed on platforms, allowing expanded distribution on YouTube as well. It's a clear sign that live sport is moving beyond traditional television into digital spaces where audiences already live. We're already on these social media platforms, so why not? Here we are. What does this actually mean then for broadcasters?
Yeah.
You know, the way we've been doing things traditionally, brands, you know, a viewership, all of that. That is the burning question that we're going to be tackling, especially when we look at how things are done here on the African continent. Let's have a conversation. Leslie Adams is back on the show, Sales Director at Reach Africa. Leslie, a pleasure to have you back on. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about the significance of the shift towards streaming live sports on platforms like TikTok and YouTube. What makes it so significant at this time?
It's probably the first departure from the traditional broadcast model, almost thinking of social media as a secondary channel. FIFA's being quite progressive here, trying to obviously up their numbers of the younger audience, which is actually moving away from traditional broadcast viewing. So moving into 2026, a few months ago, TikTok signed the first social partnership ever for a major tournament, and now followed by closely by YouTube, with both platforms now being able to stream some games or some portions of some games on the platform itself. This will bring more younger audiences where they are on their mobile devices to enjoy the game. And specifically for Africa, who's going to battle a time difference, will be quite interesting to see how we engage with the World Cup, given the 8, 9 hour time difference, depending where you are, East, Central, or West, and how you engage with different games that are sort of outside of the traditional prime time broadcast.
Leslie, I want to know from a broadcasting perspective. I mean, we are used to traditional television and we often hear how these deals are struck when it comes to the broadcasting rights for sport. What does this mean for traditional television? How do they then remain competitive in this new digital rise?
It's absolutely a major licensing shift around exclusivity. And before, I must be honest, many broadcasters would not consider platforms to be their direct competitors. In this case, they absolutely are. And the shift to not only paid for, it's like the one would assume that the FIFA or a license of this size for a paid for environment.
Yeah.
FIFA's in fact opted for a free environment that's mass available through any device in the social sphere. And I think that's a major sort of alarm bell that should be rung across the industry as a whole in terms of one, FIFA's held steady that it wants to increase access, be more democratic in its entire reach. And ultimately, licensing games is not about being democratic. It's not about actually creating mass reach, but in fact, profiting from that reach through exclusivity, through a sort of curated way of doing it through television. Now, the partnerships is very, very interesting because one, both partnerships extend to in the press room, you'll have creators from both TikTok and YouTube in the press conference room asking their own questions as if they were traditional media journalists. This is very important because it gives them a sort of a first view, a different experience in the creator economy, especially now if you're a diehard football fan, and I am too, and a diehard sport fan. Many of the opinion pieces happen outside of broadcast. It's now happening on podcasts and vodcasts on social media, and the banter and the debates are very different. FIFA's embracing that early on. And this will be a really interesting multiplier in terms of audiences across the board because now you're untied into a broadcaster, which is the first massive threat for broadcasters. But two, I think it could be a massive opportunity for social media to be seen as a traditional sort of force, delivering high quality content, giving you behind the scenes, and then streaming these games live.
This is very exciting. And, you know, it sounds like they've really thought about everything. But let's talk about, because when I hear TikTok, especially from a demographic perspective, I hear young person. Automatically, I just think TikTok, social media, young people. So what does this mean for the audience? Are younger audiences now the primary driver of how sports content is now being distributed?
I wouldn't say primary driver, but definitely an important demographic that we have to consider for every content and license owner going forward, right? Over the last 15 years, we've seen a steady decline in the sports audience, and it's been technically blamed specifically on the younger audience not tuning into appointment viewing on traditional broadcast channels. This is a bold move from a license holder as large as FIFA saying, look, instead of waiting for the audience, we'll go to where they know they are because we know our content is valuable. We know the behind the scenes content is valuable. We know the highlights is valuable because that's where conversation actually is happening, is online. Now, not only will they take part of the conversation, they want to lead the conversation on the platform itself, which is very interesting. But to your point, younger audiences, for the future and the longevity and for the long term of the profitability of the sport, it's critical that they be in spaces where this audience can participate. Diehard football fans in the older demographic, the millennial demographic and Gen X demographic and older, are happy with broadcast and in fact prefer it. They want to watch their favorite team, their country perform on the larger screen in the home. Whereas younger audiences want more personalized experience. They want to consume differently. And yes, you may want to watch games, but might not be in their living room or in their bedroom. It may be on the fly or while they commute. And I think this is a great play for that particular matter.
20 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time, we are currently in conversation with Leslie Adams, Sales Director at Reach Africa, as we unpack FIFA saying they are going to be on TikTok during the World Cup. What does that mean for you and me? And in terms of engagement, I'm thinking watching a live game and being able to comment directly as the game is happening. What does that mean for the structures of TikTok? Will it put them under pressure, having so many people be on the platform at once? We'll further unpack with Leslie after this.
As Africa renews, so does its voices. 60 years of Channel Africa. Africa Matters. The conversation on climate change and financing Africa's recovery. Only on Channel Africa.
We're proud to announce that Wits Business School is actually our partner. They are hosting us. The second most important thing, though, for me, is that we often go to these summits, these conferences, and you find that you never really know where to find solutions and outcomes that came out of those discussions. So Wits Business School will craft our outcomes document, which will have steps to say what are the follow-ups and how do we measure success and what do we need to do next.
Across the continent, climate change is forcing tough decisions. This is Africa Matters. This is the upside for Africa's most exciting content on the radio.
What a significant partnership this is. FIFA and TikTok. They will be allowing broadcasters to live stream World Cup content on the platform alongside expanded distribution on YouTube. Currently and still in conversation with Leslie Adams, Sales Director at Reach Africa. Leslie, from what you were able to observe, am I correct in saying that every single game will be available on TikTok, will be allowed to be broadcasted on TikTok? Is that correct, or select games?
Select games.
Okay.
So again, they've got to balance the broadcast versus social video, but it will be select games. There is a portion, some games will only be the first 10 minutes, some games will be the full game as a whole. What will be interesting is that the data and the insight that will come out of this will be very, very interesting. Live sports, as well as live news, has been the bedrock of broadcast television. This will be the first time a major sporting event, a major license holder will sort of fracture that system. The data that they'll be able to learn, the insights. Mind you, many broadcasters actually use social media conversation and banter and trending topics of the day as a way of inferring their influence. This time it'll happen live on platform, which will be a quite interesting change.
What opportunity does this then present for brands that are looking to reach sports fans?
It's a fantastic opportunity for a couple of reasons, right? So I guess number one is the threat of more fragmentation. More places to reach this audience is now fractured across many more places. So instead of having one or two channels where you have your football audience, you'll now have 4 channels or more in which you can engage with them. Different channels offer different ways of engaging. So to your earlier point, saying that if we're watching on TikTok, you can have live banter on TikTok as it goes through. This will be quite an interesting sort of test of how this will be executed. We know for a while now, X, previously Twitter, really had massive engagement sort of subjects running when they had the topic of the day or the live game that they would have live sort of commentary and banter on there. This will be an enhancement of that because many of these social channels can link to one another and find a new life. Live replays. I could only see the VAR memes already being birthed on social and how that will take that conversation to the next level because it will happen in a live environment. So for brands, it means more touch points, more audience spread, which means more budgets have to be spread across multiple places, which also represents one, a budget challenge, two, an enriched user engagement challenge, and then ultimately for the user, more ways of getting involved with the teams and the fans.
Leslie, are there concerns that we need to raise to the sporting public, the fans who will be eagerly waiting for every single game on social media? Are there any red flags, certain links they need to stay away from, disguising themselves as FIFA, saying, okay, you can now stream us, just open our link on our email? Are there certain risks that we need to look out for as the viewers going into this World Cup?
It's a very interesting question, especially in the African context, because both YouTube and TikTok are free to air and are free to stream. The wide access is already available. Many brands will pivot and direct and sort of direct where people can watch. And I think being a smart user will always go down, verify, look at the number of ads, find the community that's following the football in different spaces, use the existing channels, go to YouTube and find the answer, go to TikTok and find the answer. But mind you, in South Africa, we've got SABC Plus and SABC. We've got MultiChoice also streaming the tournament. So we're going to have multiple touch points to enjoy different footballing environments, delivering a fan experience.
This is such an interesting model, because obviously it's a very big experiment. Lots of money is being put behind this, but I think what's so progressive as well is how it is giving access or more access to African audiences to spaces of World Cup action, as it were. But how can African media companies position themselves in this evolving landscape that we're seeing around football and social media?
Look, again, maybe to add to the sort of footballing banter, the fan insight, the couch coaches, as it were,
Right.
can now have access to premium quality content that they can use and banter and deliver their insights. And suddenly, the footballing coach from home, the insights from a loved fan, those sort of things give birth to new creator economies using this premium content as a way to do that, right? And suddenly, you can deliver insightful content on your fan sort of journey in your home language through your own YouTube channel, through your own TikTok channel, which means suddenly, as opposed to a few select broadcast channels, we now can have millions of sort of podcasters and couch coaches out there weighing in a meaningful way, building their own audiences, having their own discussions.
It's an exciting time indeed. Leslie, looking into the future, could social media then be the home of live sport? And not just live sport, perhaps even live events as well?
It gives an additional layer to what they were able to deliver in this live environment, right? So, like I said before, live sport, live news has been the bedrock of broadcast television.
Yeah.
I think the largest screen in the home will continue to play a major role within that space. But if you look at the global numbers, YouTube has been dominating the smart TV and connected TV for a while now in terms of overall viewing time. What that means is adding another content place in which consumers can engage with, I think is a good thing in the digital age. And from an African perspective, where we are mobile first, this is where social video and these sort of licensing agreements become very, very interesting. What is very clear here is free environments will drive up usage. Free engagement environments will drive up engagement in that space from a social perspective. It does add an additional layer. What it does do for the African consumer is give us more touch points, more access points,
Yeah.
and hopefully more points to engage and then build off our own personalities within those environments for podcasts.
Okay, perhaps let's look at things futuristically. Leslie, audiences, what can we kind of expect, I guess, from a viewership perspective in the next 5 years, of course, inclusive of this evolving space and including social media and whatever else is going to be happening, because 5 years is almost anything can happen. Like the future is a big place.
It really is. I think it's a very tough thing to ponder. And if you could Canal Plus acquisition on MultiChoice and now seeing the sort of decentralization of these major sporting events, it could be a major threat. For the social medias of the world, it could be a very interesting opportunity to move more aggressively into the traditional TV licensing space where they can reach scale and deliver audiences at a much cheaper and much more connected space with multiple screens. For audiences out there, it means, again, richer engagement, which means you can comment on live games in the environment using social media, and you may be able to create banter in that space. And I'm sure Brian's already thinking of how they can do that and find richer ways. For broadcasters, it does mean a challenging way forward, specifically because it means their traditional sponsorship revenue, which came from exclusivity, is now being weakened because of more competition. But for the consumer out there, it means more touch points, more channels, more ways to engage, more ways to watch.
Leslie, who's your money on?
It's too early to say. I'm a football romantic, and I want at least one African country to do really surprisingly well. And of course, as a World Cup loving football fan, I have a soft spot for Brazil, and they're very unpredictable at the moment. So, who's your money on?
You know what? My money is on Africa. Actually, my money is on South Africa simply because I'm being patriotic now. But whether they will actually win or realistically get anywhere is another story. But I'm just going to say South Africa, just being patriotic. That's it. But your money's on Brazil. We'll hold you to that, and hopefully we'll see those results play out. Let's see, maybe in my favor, maybe not in yours, Leslie.
Win-win.
The voice of Leslie Adams, sales director at Reach Africa. We were discussing the partnership between FIFA and TikTok. Yes, TikTok will be broadcasting the World Cup this year. Select games, but it's an exciting time to be alive. Be able to consume live content, live sport on your phone. What a time. 30 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time. Let's get the latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa.